Hi everyone. So over the next series of lessons we're going to break down privatisation, nationalisation and deregulation. Okay, each of these areas has quite a few notes that you can see I've drawn out. On the left hand side we can see the pros, the advantages suggested by the plus points and the negatives suggested by the minus points. Okay, right, so within our first area we're going to take a look at is of course privatisation. Privatisation is widespread policy of Margaret Thatcher back in the 1980s and was really about taking state-owned assets and transferring them to the private sector, to private ownership, so that they could actually pursue a profit in the interests of their owners. The big argument in favour of privatisation is that it can really help to increase supply in a marketplace. So a supply increase diagram on your demand and supply is very appropriate here, nice and easy to illustrate. So we can see that increasing the level of supply in the market will lower prices, and also privatisation helps to improve incentives because firms can now go after that profit notion, that they actually want to maximise profits, and they've got a real incentive to do so because they are not under state ownership or control. Okay, it can also help to improve choice and quality in some areas as well. This is particularly true in the airline industry, where you have a wide choice of different carriers at different price points and quality levels. Okay, this can help to improve innovation and dynamic efficiency in the marketplace as well, as firms actually reinvest their supernormal profits to improve the quality of provision in the future. It's also helped to widen the share ownership base in the UK and has ensured that many average households have since become shareholders and owners of shares as a direct result of privatisation. Okay, we've also seen that it will also reduce the actual fiscal burden on the actual fiscal finances. So there's no longer the need for governments to actually subsidise their state-owned industries under privatisation, because they then have to stand on their own 2 feet in the marketplace and make sure that they're competitive. Of course, it's worth noting that you need to ensure that you do have a competitive market structure, so that you are not simply, as one of these big downsides mentions here, that you could run the risk of turning state-run monopolies run for social benefit into private monopolies run for private benefit, which could then exploit consumers. This is why there is often the need for regulation within the industry. So those regulators then have to ensure that they are really behaving themselves and they're not exploiting any potential monopoly position that they may have. Okay, there's also equity concerns as well regarding the actual fairness. So for instance, if aspects of the NHS were privatised, it may well be that the lower income groups could no longer actually access such services so easily. Okay, right, so some evaluative points regarding privatisation then. Yes, you must create competition and ensure that you lower entry barriers within the marketplace. So privatisation, as a direct consequence of this, is likely to be accompanied by some deregulation, some deregulatory policies to ensure that new firms can actually enter the marketplace nice and easily. As we've said, there's a need for regulators, but those regulators are likely to be imperfect. Of course, examples that we see: Ofgem for the energy markets, the gas and electricity markets, we've got Ofwat for the water markets, we've got Ofcom for the telecoms communication services, and so on. Okay, but there is a real risk of regulatory capture here. That is where you have a situation of asymmetric information, where one party, i.e. the privatised firm, which is perhaps now a private monopoly, knows more than the regulator about their cost and revenue structures than they do. Okay, thirdly, that there can be also improved consumer surplus as well. We've certainly seen that in the airline industry. Have we seen that across the board though? Well, it's highly debatable that, and of course the rail industry and the water industry are much criticised. Okay, and then finally, what about outcomes? So where has privatisation worked and why? And in which areas has privatisation been least successful and why? Okay, so being able to evaluate at these levels is very important, okay, with any potential essay on privatisation and nationalisation. Okay, so next time we will look at nationalisation. All right, great stuff. Thanks, guys.